Okay, so in the last videos, you guys learned, how to assess primitive reflexes. So we can use those as an indicator of development. You guys learned how to look at balance, like with the man's test of having them stand one foot in front of the other one, seeing which direction they fall. You learned cerebellar test to see is one side weaker than the other side or vice versa. You guys did arms in, arms out, finger to nose. So you learned to look for some of these cerebellar signs. So primarily when it comes to development, my big focus is the cerebellum. And I want to make sure we're activating the correct side of the cerebellum before we do primitive reflex remediation stuff. Because when we activate that weak cerebellum, we're going to fire over to the weak networks in the opposite side of the brain. And we're going to start lighting up that brain so that it can start to inhibit these primitive reflexes. And then we can work on retraining all these movements with all the exercises that we gave you in the rehab section. But what I want to do is, what you're simply going to do is you're going to look at, first thing is what side of the cerebellum is weak. So if their left side is weaker, so I'm going to use the example of my left cerebellum is weaker, my right frontal lobe is weaker with all these. So when they do rapid alternation, left side is more awkward, it's not as efficient as the right. Same with arms straight out, left side's less efficient than the right. They stand one foot in front of the other one, they start to drift towards that side. And you may not find all of these findings perfectly on one side or the other side, but take the majority findings. And then what you're going to do is you're going to try to stimulate the cerebellum. And when you stimulate the cerebellum appropriately, what you'll see is their primitive reflexes will get better. So that's how you know you're on the correct side. Your cerebellum coordinates everything, coordinates every sensory system, and that's why we can use our sensory systems to start to activate these centers. So we might use, for example, we may just use some complex movement, some figure eights on the left, figure eights on the left side of the leg, arm, seeing if that changes it. If it does, then you do more of it. Simple. Whatever works, do more of it. You could take a Resimax or anything that vibrates, and you could vibrate their entire left side. You could strap it to their arms, and you can use anything that vibrates. You can have them hold in their left hand. You can do that for a period of time and see if that changes their reflexes. If their reflexes get better, you're going to do that while you do reflex exercises. Maybe you have them stand on a vibration plate. Maybe you have them stand on their left foot. You activate their left cerebellum by standing on their left foot, turn on a vibration plate, starts vibrating, they start getting activation of their vestibular system, and that's what gets rid of their, improves their reflexes. If so, then you do more of that. It's really simple, it's not hard. Maybe use sound or light. So for their left cerebellum, right brain, you're going to use light in there. Oh, it's working. So you'll bring light into the left side of their vision. Into the left side of the vision. Do that multiple times, 10 or 15 times, and see if that changes their reflexes. So what we're simply looking for is all of these different sensory systems that start changing the reflex. Maybe you turn on a metronome like this, and you just put it up to their left ear, and do about 10 or 15 beats of that, and then check the reflexes again and see what changes it. Multiple things may change their reflexes. And so compiling, well, here's the sensory modality that improves their reflexes. Here's another one that improves their reflexes. Now you've figured out 3 or 4 different things, or maybe it's one different thing that starts to change their reflexes. That's a window in. So we're going to use those activities while we're doing a lot of these rehab strategies or before it. Another thing we do if you have a laser is you can go in and laser the cerebellum to get blood flow there, to get more energy there. You can go to the opposite side of the brain and laser the opposite side of the brain to get more information there. You can laser right in the midline of their skull to get more information there, get more blood flow there, get more resources there. And a lot of times that alone will change their reflexes. So you can do that. Number one is do those different strategies. Find as many different ones as you can. Do them often. Do them 3, 4, 5 times a day. And then work on rehab strategies for whatever reflexes they have. Once you get rid of their reflexes, now we got to start working on their vestibular system. And again, you want to see what improves their vestibular system, what improves their balance. If you use vibration on the left side, does their balance get better? Well, we're going to do that while they do balance activities. And I'm going to show you guys kind of my 2 favorite tools for balance activities. Number one is what's called the NeuroSage. It's a great game. You can get a home version of it, so you can get it for, it's really not too expensive, maybe $100 a month or something like that. But it has a bunch of different games on here. Like for example, in this game, what happens is they have to control this ball and move it through this maze, and it's really a great activity for our vestibular system, because I might have them stand with one foot together, or with their feet together, one foot in front of the other one, and then they're doing this activity where their eyes are tracking and they have to maintain their balance. And you'll see them moving like crazy. When their eyes are moving, their balance centers will be getting activated like crazy. Same with this rollerball. It's another great game. This brick breaker is really good for eye movements, side to side eye movements, saccades. So when you start working on their eyes after their balance centers, it's another great game. There's a bunch of games on here for like even cognition, like memory games, attention games, reaction time games. So for working on frontal lobe and reaction time, there's other great games on here too. And there's a bunch of targeted ones, but you can get this system at home. Another one of my most favorite games is what's called the Bobo board, which again, I'll put a link to this. The Bobo board is awesome. It's so good for balance development. You put it on a foam mat like this, and what you do, set it right on it, and there's a bunch of games on there, and they just simply have to stand on top of it, and you can hook it up to an iPad, or you can hook it up to a TV, and they have to move through the game. There's probably like 20 different games on there where they feel like they're playing a game, but they're actually working on their vestibular system. And at the same time, what you're going to do is, if we ended up finding out that vibration was really beneficial for them through the left side of their body, and maybe some sound was really beneficial, we're going to put something on them that vibrates. We're going to put some that has a sound through their left ear. We might even just, if you have a laser their cerebellum specifically to get more blood flow there. As their cerebellum gets healthier, especially that side gets healthier, now we're starting to get a lot more activity to their opposite cortex or opposite frontal lobe, and that'll continually reinforce better and better and better development of their primitive reflexes. So these are activities that you can do after you get rid of reflexes. They're activities you can do during when you're trying to get rid of reflexes. So when you do your exam and you find all these primitive reflexes, but then you also find a bunch of balance issues and maybe a bunch of range of motion restriction issues, you can work on all those to help get rid of these reflexes. So if they have a lot of abnormal range of motion, you're going to want to work on that first, doing slow range of motion that we talk about in the rehab section, which you guys will see. But then you may also want to activate their vestibular system. And by doing activities like this, then work on their reflexes, because that'll help get more activity to their brain, and the brain will go in and shut the reflexes down. So you don't only have to work on reflexes. There is a tentative order of, we're going to work on reflexes first, then vestibular, then eyes. But for some kids, you have to work on their vestibular system to get rid of the reflexes. Depends on what system is the weakest. So if they have a really poor vestibular system, you may want to do a lot of those activities in conjunction with reflex exercises. So this video is, I know, a little bit more detailed, but I wanted to give you some other activities you can do, especially if you're having challenges getting rid of those reflexes in the first place, or the things you can do on top of it if you do have more time. So have an awesome day. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video. To learn more or to schedule an intensive or anything with my team, there's a link below. Just go ahead and click that, and that'll get you to the right spot. Have an awesome day.